Tonight's story is called The Race Against the Sunset. To the south of Horsemarlonapole, over the Bridge of Spires, are the Meadows. The meadows are fields which are perfect for playing in. They go on for miles and miles, and in summer are full of tall grass. Zack had told his mummy and daddy that he was going to the meadows to walk his pretend dog, Enzo. It was only a pretend dog, so mummy and daddy couldn't see it, but to Zack, Enzo was very real. He was small, with short, soft brown and gold fur, and 4 little legs, and a happy little friendly face, and a tail that was nearly as long as his body. And when that tail wagged, you felt the wind in your face from the force of it. "All right," said Mummy, "but make sure you're back before it gets dark." "Remember, Zack," she said, very sternly, "back before dark." Mummy and Daddy didn't mind Zack going off to play. The meadows were soft and safe, but they didn't like him staying out when it got dark, in case he got lost and couldn't find his way home. "Well, Enzo can see in the dark," Zack argued. But seeing as Enzo was imaginary, Mummy and Daddy didn't trust him as much as Zack did. "Just be back before dark," Mummy called again as Zack shut the front door. Well, Zack and Enzo had a perfect afternoon. They made a camp in the long grass, and they found one meadow where Farmer Headcorn had mowed all the grass to make hay, and they rolled about in that, laughing and laughing. They had their lunch of raspberry sandwiches and cornflakes, raspberry sandwiches for Zack, cornflakes for Enzo, and ate them by a well. It was really a well for Farmer Headcorn to bring up water for his sheep, but Zack and Enzo decided it was a wishing well, and each threw a pebble down. You see, here's a secret: you don't need money at a wishing well, anything will do. And they both wished for good luck and lay back in the grass to let their lunch settle. Well, when Zack opened his eyes, it wasn't quite as warm as before, and when he looked up into the sky, it wasn't quite as bright blue as before. He turned his head to the side on the grass and saw that the sun was now orange and sinking towards the faraway hills. "Wake up, Enzo!" cried Zack in a panic. "We've been asleep too long and it'll soon be dark." Enzo jumped up onto his 4 paws and sniffed the air. Zack was right. The evening was coming. "Mummy!" yelled Zack. "I promised her! Run!" Well, Zack and Enzo rushed across the first meadow, headed back towards home. But when they got to the end of that meadow and jumped over the gate, there was another meadow in front of them. Zack looked back and checked the sun. Now it was even more orange and even lower. "Run, Enzo!" said Zack. They raced across the second meadow, but when they got to the end of that, they saw a third meadow. They'd been having such a lovely afternoon, they'd forgotten how far they'd walked. Zack looked back and checked the sun again. Now it was a deep red orange and just touching the top of the hills. And looking out over another field, Zack began to worry. Were they even running in the right direction? Were they running towards home or running away from it? Mummy always told him to come home before dark because she worried about him, but now, for the first time, Zack was worried about himself and Enzo. He knelt down and looked his dog in the eyes. "Enzo," he said, "I'm a little bit worried. I think we might be lost. Can you find the way home?" Enzo rubbed his head against Zack's hand as if to say, "Don't worry, please don't worry," and then went and climbed up on top of a gate and sniffed the air again. Enzo barked. "Do you know the way?" Zack asked. Enzo barked again and began trotting off down the side of the field, in a different direction to the one they were going. Are you sure? Said Zack. Enzo barked again, and so Zack ran after him. They ran through Bluebell Wood, and then another meadow, which Zack remembered was where the summer fete was held, until he saw the Twisty Bridge, and beyond it, the town of Horsemaw Lonapole. You did it, Enzo, he laughed. They ran through the streets of the town where all the buildings were glowing dark red in the last light of the setting sun. And finally, they were home. Zack opened the front door, let the still panting Enzo in, and shut it behind them. And there was Mummy and Daddy, waiting. What did we say? Said Mummy. What time do you call this? I call it after dark. Zack thought a minute. Oh, I don't know. What time does it say on the town hall clock? Mummy and Daddy went to the window by the front door and looked down the street to the town hall. It says 7:30, said Daddy. Well, said Zack, feeling a bit clever, if you can see what it says, it can't be totally after dark, can it? Zack's Mummy and Daddy looked at each other and sighed, and then smiled. Come here, said Mummy, and Zack went to her. She gave him the biggest hug, and Zack smiled and closed his eyes. Actually, Mummy, Daddy, I'll tell you the truth. I did get a little bit lost, but Enzo found the way home. A few minutes later, when Zack was lying in bed with Enzo on top of the covers, Daddy came in with a honey sandwich on a plate and a mug of hot chocolate. Zack sat up in bed and smiled. I know you missed dinner, so you must be hungry, said Daddy, and went to sit on the bed, but Zack said, Oh, watch out for Enzo. Daddy didn't believe that Enzo was real, but carefully sat on the very side of the bed whilst Zack took the mug of chocolate and honey sandwich. Now you said you got lost today, said Daddy. Well, that was very honest of you telling us, and I'm very proud of you for keeping calm and figuring it out. Oh no, Enzo figured it out, said Zack. Daddy smiled, gave Zack a kiss on his forehead, and said good night. Zack finished his sandwich and chocolate, put the plate and mug up on his bedside table, and snuggled down. Thank you for helping me today, Enzo, said Zack. And through the covers he felt his dog stretch, yawn, and smile his way into a long, long dream. Night-night.
Where's Douglas gone?